Hey, wake up. It's time for the Primal Scream. Is that you doing that?
Yeah, that's totally
God,
me.
you're freaking me out. So we're going to go for podcast number 2 on Labor Day. What?
You'd really want to let people know we're going to do 2 podcasts on
Hey,
Monday.
you know what you got to do? You got to fit these podcasts in when you have time to record them. I'm not going to release this one until later, but the date in
Good.
which we are recording this podcast is actually on Labor Day. And we have a guest. Are we just going to call you, what do you want me to call it?
Junior. Junior.
Junior's fine?
Junior works.
Yep.
Todd, right? You knew that?
Yep.
All right.
We've met.
Very nice.
Junior, of course, is Todd's son. So there you have it. What do you guys want to talk about today? We tried to do a recording before, and Junior had some excellent insight
Yeah.
on some topics,
Prolific.
but he
to say the
sucks
least.
at talking into the microphone.
True.
He's
Not my
better-
strong suit.
It's not his strong suit, but he's getting better at it. And
Trying
he's
my
gonna be-
best.
And you're going to be going to the Air Force soon. So for everybody out there, that's the deal. He's
Yeah.
18. He's done with school.
He's 19,
Oh, shit. he's
and
19. Why not-
he heads to boot camp in 28 days.
You know what? Why don't you talk about him? 'Cause I don't know his bio as well as you do.
I'm just saying that's it. That's the bio.
That's the bio.
He's
And you're going to be going
good
in.
dude, and he is heading on the road of life here pretty quick.
Dude, your dad told me that you got some good news recently about the Air Force, that when you're done with basic and you do your EOD for a little bit,
Yeah.
possible other options could come open.
Well, yeah, that's been presented to me since MEPS. That idea that you could, when you're in EOD, you could either cross-train before while you're doing it, or you can do it afterwards. Once you've in EOD, you can cross-train it over something else.
Mm-hmm.
What I wasn't aware of yet, though, was that there's a special job I like that's called the Special Investigation Unit, but you have to reach a certain rank before you can even apply for that job.
Right.
So, like, if you were in the Army, it'd be like you have to attain the rank of corporal before you could become or get in this job. But for us, it's senior airman.
Okay.
And in order to be a senior airman, if you sign up for 4 years, you have to be 2 years in.
Okay.
Or if you sign up for 6 years, you only have to be 1.5.
Oh.
Something about doing the 6th year and then becoming special investigation right away.
If that's what you're really into, that's cool. I hope you get it. Hope it
Sounds like a
works out.
plan, right?
Yeah. Yeah, when your dad was talking about it, he's like, yeah, Junior's doing this, and then after that, he's doing that. And he got done with his whole spiel, and I thought, oh, my God.
I
It
have no
sounds like
idea what
a-
he's talking about.
It actually sounds like a fucking plan. That sounds great. I mean, I think it's cool that, that was one of my fears, and I've just known you since you were a baby, but
I've only just since the day you were born, but go ahead.
what?
I've only known you since the day you were born, but go ahead. You were saying.
Right. I was concerned about your plan, and that's nothing compared to what your dad was probably feeling. And it's such a revelation. It's so neat to hear that you've gotten to a point where you've got it mapped out.
Or have at the very least, a good idea of what you want to start with.
Right. And because you have a plan, and if you succeed with just following through with your basic plan, you have such a solid foundation for the rest of your life to do what you want to do with. I think that's just extremely important for young people to understand.
I
and
don't
get
think
it
you
beat
can
into
give
their
any.
head.
I don't think you give it any more importance. I mean, I think it's like the end all be all. Think of all. I mean, I know kids that I'm sure, and Forrest has guys in his class who are friends of his who have a very solid idea of what they want to do, and they're going to UNI, they're going to Iowa, they're going to Iowa State, and they know what they're going to do with their lives. Awesome for them. But if you don't have that direction from the beginning of high school, this is what I'm doing with my life. You're going to go into college kind of like, I would say 50% of people are like, let's just see what happens. Well, I don't know. You don't declare a major until you're a sophomore. Well, let's just see what happens. Let's just let the tide of school float us along, and let's just spend a shitload of money, and let's just see. You know what? I don't know. Maybe I'll be a psychologist and
Why do I have to
in
make that
primitive-
decision just yet?
in
I'm not ready to make that decision.
primitive Native American studies.
But
it has
besides-
no basis at all, but
I didn't need I don't think I really needed the Air Force to do that, though. The Air Force is a great opportunity.
Right.
And it's definitely a place where I can experience more and probably achieve more than I ever could in civilian life. But my other plan, if I didn't get in, something happened, if something came up by my blood test or whatever, something weird, I would have probably joined the police force and went to night school because I want to be a detective when I get out.
Right.
So the step up from that would be you start out as an officer, get your degree in criminal justice, and then you become a detective. So that would have been the road I would have taken if I hadn't had the Air Force. But because the Air Force offered me the good opportunities it has, I chose that instead.
That's cool. I mean, it's good that you had a plan either way.
But I also don't endorse anything in the military or the military industrial complex or any of the wars we're in since Vietnam.
Okay. Wow.
So what do you think about the Syria debacle? Let's just jump in.
All right. Let's just kind of. I want to stay somewhat focused. Somewhat. I thought we could go down two different ways. We could either talk about politics. We can talk about Syria. We can talk about drone strikes. We can talk about NSA. We can talk about all those types of things, or we can go the completely other route and talk about relationships and softer things. Do you not want to have that sexy time talk with Junior, or either one?
We can do totally both.
Let me ask Junior. What would you rather talk about?
God, they're so great,
Totally.
both of them.
They are pretty great, both of them. I totally agree. Could we not hit both? Could we not do a little bit of talk about?
I think if we stop midway,
mid-rant,
rant, because we're probably going to get into some rants. And
Oh,
it's
sure.
just going to add into one big one. If we stop our political mid-rant and then switch into relationships, I think it'd be a better way to end the podcast than because we're pretty negative.
Oh, look, he's pretty.
Yeah, you know what? I think that.
No,
I mean, just that gives me
he's
a little
working
bit of
the
a
mojo,
foreshadow.
the mojo, big time.
Gives me a little bit of a foreshadow on how you work your sexual relations. You go in hard and then you end off
I am
easy.
soft.
Ew.
What?
So gross.
Get gentler towards
Just
the end.
Post.
Well, ask this lady if that's how it
Cuddling.
works.
All right. So yeah, you were asked about Syria, right?
No, I want his opinion about Syria because he said, I'm joining the military, but I'm not pro blah blah blah. So I was just curious.
So the little bit that we've heard in the media about Syria, what's your gut feeling about what you've heard
Stay the hell out of it.
and why?
Because we as America has become this self-endowed, century of the entire world in which we decide that, if something bad is happening anywhere in the world, then we have to go stop it. And that's not true either because we usually get into wars for the resources. But in the Syria case, it's not our job to stop what's happening over there. We don't need to sacrifice American lives, that, or sell ourselves out by using drones, which I think is one of the worst things to happen in a very long time.
See,
The invention of drones.
That's very interesting that you say that, because now some people would come back at you and say, "What about our moral and ethical responsibilities?" I mean, when you're the guy with the big stick walking through the halls of high school and you see some bully beating up on somebody weaker, don't you have a responsibility to stand up for the weaker people? I mean, what would you say to people that is their argument?
I think it's a false argument, to be honest. I think it's a false argument because let me interrupt here just for a second, Junior, and say that I think that that's a false argument because there's a big difference between a group of individual human beings, right, saying we need to get along, or this one person is causing us these kind of issues, or we have a world who has armaments and hundreds of thousands of people and countries and borders and things like that. There's not just us. There's lots of people involved in this, and there's lots of innocent people involved in this. If we get a bully in a corner and we say you're
Right.
being a problem, we can get somebody to help us take care of that one person. If we decide to, do a strategical strike on someone, we know for a fact that even though they may have allegedly gassed innocent children and women and people, a strategical strike by us very well could kill innocent women and children. And so
Right.
I kind of have an issue with the argument of we have bullies in schools. Is that equivalent to bullies in the world? I don't think that fits very well.
And who are we to go over and say, oh, you're doing this wrong or you're doing that wrong? I mean, we have to figure out our own problems before we go and
Right.
solve
And
someone
I'm just going to play the part of devil's advocate a little bit because I think that example fits very well. I think people use it quite often when they think of America and the world as us as a world police. Is that what we should be doing? No, I don't think we should be doing it, but we have been doing that. So do we have a responsibility to continue doing it? And it's not as simple as, hey, this country over here is holding back progress of women, and it's not about this country over here having unfair labor laws with children or enslavement. This is what's being touted in the media. This is a group of people that is slaughtering in whatever manner, in whatever way. They're killing these people. They're killing them. So it's not, I find it really easy that somebody could say, you know what, morally, ethically, we could possibly put a stop to that.
But we're not doing it for the moral or the ethics of it. We never have.
But I mean, that right. We never have. That's correct. I don't think we have.
So
you and I agree. But I just want
see
to
what
put
you're
out.
saying. Yeah, the idea of devil's advocate of that, we don't need to deal with it. But I
Right.
mean, that's like saying that we're the big person with the big stick and the bully is bullying a little, kid. We would stop that bully in order to steal money from the little kid
Right.
or resources.
Have we? Do you think we? Do you think we only apply those rules to certain countries? I mean, what do we have to gain from going to war with Syria?
Well, we would establish our own military presence in the area.
Yeah, just
Which-
one more base.
Yeah, which helps, or that we think helps stabilize. But I mean, I think the world is in such turmoil. There's so much terrorism in hyphens, and people trying to attack us because we instigate that. I think it's a lot like if someone is constantly afraid that they're going to get beat up, or they're afraid that they're going to get robbed. They end up getting robbed because they have put this energy out there that oh God, oh God, oh God, and then all of a sudden it happens.
Right.
So I think we're the same way. Like we got to put all these bases everywhere to stop everyone from attacking each other, attacking us, and then we, by doing that, we make them want to attack us and attack each other. We destabilize the area when we want to stabilize it. I think no war in Syria, no the Afghanistan, the war in Iraq, the both of them, and Vietnam and Korea were all act out of fear. Vietnam was to stop the flood of communism. Korea, I'm not sure, was that communism as well?
Yep.
Yeah.
These ideas were to stop the flood of communism. Now we're stopping destabilization of the governments and stuff, but that's the exact same idea that people can't handle it themselves. We have to go in there and stop them. And we have to kill these certain people when it really instigates the violence that we're trying to stop.
Exactly. When, again, do we need to be the police of everybody? When do we stop in and say, we have the more... You and I have talked about this before today, earlier today, of the day today.
Yeah.
One more day.
Today.
Today.
When did we have the moral high ground? When we committed genocide on a group of Native Americans who were here before us.
Okay.
We enslave people. When they say 400 million people died between Africa and America in the passage between Africa and here. I mean, come on. Now, all of a sudden, I know it's far removed and people think that's a ridiculous correlation, but at some point we have to step back and say, you know what? We've had some pretty bad track records ourselves. So we need to figure out how we're handling ourselves in a moral capacity with the rest of the world, period. It's not a hard thing to try to grasp.
But I think we can, the idea that we are a superpower, so we are responsible to some degree. I don't think we need to militarize our responsibility. We don't need to be the guy who goes over and bombs someone. What we need to do is be the beacon of light of responsibility and, a country that...
Beacon of light.
That, do what I do, that leads by example.
There you go.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
So if we pull all of our bases out and we don't attack people for resources, we don't have all this, prejudice and all that, then we will lead by example and the other countries will not do it as well. Or we'll see that, this country is very successful, very well off. Maybe we should do the same thing, and that'll help us on our journey.
Right. In regards to the drone strikes, now, how do you? What did you say? How do you refer to the drone strikes?
One of the worst moral things to happen in United States history, and I'll say it's a big charge. But what I think is that it removes the person who has to kill someone from the killing itself.
I mean, haven't we been doing? I mean, we've been slowly. Actually, I don't know about slowly, but we've removed ourselves since the advent of the airplane.
Sure.
I mean, we shoot shells from ships from miles away. This is only it's like instead of using a catapult with a big stone, we're using a sniper rifle with a scope.
But because we've done it before, does not justify it now.
Right. My thing is, if you're gonna go to war, if you are gonna have war with another country, even then, even when you declare war, you think that tactic of war is not acceptable?
I think the only way that war is acceptable is if someone is trying to hurt you.
Yeah, no, I'm not. Well, we can get on that later, but I'm just saying,
if we had to war, that would be
once
okay.
we have a war, once we are in a war, like we were at war with Iraq, we were having a war with Afghanistan. Once we are engaged in battle, what is your stance on drone strikes at that point?
At that point, well, that's a very good question, but it's hard for me to answer because I don't believe in war in the first place. I honestly think war is an outdated mechanism that we use to, it's like when you run out of things to argue or to say in an argument, then you have to hit somebody. That's the idea, right? That's when it goes to blows, is when you have longer have a good argument to use against them.
Right.
I think once we get past the stage of having to, be these big, strong men, the primate, top of the pack idea.
You do realize that this podcast is called Primal Instinct, Primal Instinct, Primal Scream.
That's my kid. I'm just saying. That's my boy
Right.
over there.
Him and I are going to go back and forth on this because
It's good.
you can argue all you want, and you can try to be as peaceful as you want, but just like Occupy Wall Street, when they were peacefully occupying that area,
Nothing happened.
Nothing
there was no leader.
changed.
Yeah,
Nothing changed. And when you look at what we talked about today earlier with labor, because it's Labor Day, and I brought up Jimmy Hoffa, that dude got fucking medieval. Those people back then fought. They used bats. They used chains. They got crazy physical. And that stuff changed overnight. So the progress we've gotten from physical retaliation, physical presence, I don't think you can just look down your nose at.
I don't believe that either, but I do believe that anything you gain in violence will instill a sense of violence in years to come.
Oh yeah, and we see that with the Taliban. We as in the United States government paid and helped fund and armed a group of people, the Taliban, back in the day to fight the Russians, right? Because the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And at one point we said, fuck it, we're out of here. And we abandoned this group of people who we said, please stand up against the Russians. So we abandoned them, and then they got almost wiped out.
And I'm going to add that at one point after World War II, the Russians were devastated after World War II. And we came in and said, hey, we're going to help you guys out. We're going to give you troops. We're going to help you repair, do things. And we bombed our end of it. Right? And so a lot of it seems to me like lack of follow through, for lack of a better term. It's like, so World War II, Europe is devastated. Like literally physically and mentally devastated.
And
from
just to paint
bombing.
And to paint a total picture, that is when we had our greatest growth and profitability in the United States for automotive manufacturing of any kind.
Right.
That's because every factory in Europe was destroyed.
And so Russia said, meet us halfway, help us get things going again, help us get things back working again. And we fell through on our end. And I need to do better research about that. but it sounds very similar to that. So we helped the Taliban at the time in Afghanistan beat the Russians. We helped them get that. Osama bin Laden was a friend of ours. And then at one point we said, okay, so you're good?
Point.
You guys are good? Okay, we'll see you later. Thanks. And then they're left to struggle and try to make it through what it was. And like, fuck that. We get a chance. We are taking it out on these guys. Now, I am not a blame America kind of person at all. But I do think we have to take responsibility for some of our actions because historically, it's proven that.
Right.
Hey, we'll help you out. Here you go. We'll help you out. Oh, you know what? We can't do it. Or, yeah, we'll help you out over here. Oh, we can't do it. You know, it just seems like we've fallen through on our side on a couple things.
Well, it seems to me that we're playing chess with the world, and we are moving pieces around, and we want to take somebody else's pawn, so we're willing to give up our pawn, but our pawn is people like the Taliban back in the day when we funded them, and we put them in front of the Russians as a pawn to distract them for a little while, but we didn't care about them. There was no moral and ethical value to what we were doing with them. We could have cared less. And obviously, that's the way it played out because we abandoned them. But that's one side of the coin, right? When do you cut your losses and run? When do you turn tail and leave? When do you look at it and say, you know what? It's not worth it. We don't deserve. We should not.
That becomes
be here.
part of them. That becomes part of, in my mind, that whole Gilded Age kind of thing. If we're only going to do something if it benefits us, we didn't join World War II because we thought, oh, terrible things are happening. We thought this fucker is on our is going to come to our shores next. We better get our shit together and get over there.
That's really what you think? You don't think we went to war because
he was bombing? No, they were bombing. France went down, and Great Britain was next, and then after Great Britain was us, and we knew it. That's a proven fact that was what's going to happen. If Great Britain went down, we were going to be following. Now, whether they could have actually ever bombed us and charged our shores and attacked us is a whole nother story. That's like for the fantasy fiction kind of thing.
You do realize at some point that's like the state of Iowa taking over Europe. The state of Iowa going to war, the country the size of Iowa.
Well, United States taking over the United States.
No, I'm not saying that.
I mean,
I'm not saying,
at some point you run out of fucking people.
At some point,
Okay?
I'm not saying that
There's
Hitler's
not that
not
many
a crazy motherfucker that thought that, you know what? I've taken down the entire continent of Europe. I've beat everybody.
Yeah.
So guess what? Great Britain, the greatest at that point civilization, right? I'm going after America. Why would he not try? Now, the way he could accomplish it or not
I think that you could easily make a counterpoint or a counter argument to somebody saying, well, we went to war because we were afraid we were next without any proof, truly, that we were next. We just had the gut feeling, and it's proposed to us in the media or whatever, in books. But there's also an argument that could be made. The people that made money, you follow the money in these wars.
It always leads back.
It always leads to the truth.
Right.
And the people that made money were the people who got us into these wars.
Sure.
You know?
And I guess I was trying to show that on the back end when people said they needed our help.
Right.
They needed us to give them things. Russia asked for our help. Please help us do this. And parts of Europe said, please help us do this. We think, oh, yeah, we'll help you. And in the back end, there was no profit in it. We had gained our profit, like you said, by bombing.
Can you imagine
roads, factories, railroads.
Yeah, I mean, look at our.
So we had our populace gained by their ruin.
Right, but I mean, if you look at today, if you were to look at who's America's main, enemy, not main enemy, but we're competing against other companies throughout the world, and who?
Because we're global.
Yeah, because we're global now.
America doesn't really exist anymore in that respect, though.
No, not in the market, not necessarily. But when you say who are we fighting against for economic reasons? I mean, who challenges us with industry?
China,
Germany, Europe, all these
India.
places, all these places that were obliterated and destroyed, and the only reason we were top dog because we were the only ones making anything.
And we could bomb the shit out of people.
What?
and we could beat the shit out of people. I mean,
Right.
Germany was
But,
devastated. Eastern
mean,
Europe was devastated. When we came in, we could control everything because we had sat back for so long.
But I'm
We
just
had tons of power and control.
what I'm trying to get at is the people that got us into these wars profited.
Mhm.
They were people that were Americans, and if you look at who made the most money during that time, it was the military industrial complex that was getting tons of money to wipe the competition out.
Right.
And that's why
Because as soon as the war was over, they changed those factories over to automobile
Right.
plants and everything else.
And you know, I mean, and part of me understands the greed aspect of that, but you couldn't ask for a better situation of like, okay, so we have these people automating automobiles, automating all these things. You know what? We'll just ask them to put things on hold. Put it on hold. Turn your automated plants into making tanks and helmets and things like that. And we'll give you a tax break. Or we'll give you whatever. I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better situation if you were an entrepreneur who had started something and the government comes in and goes, hey, you know what? You are fantastic at that job.
yeah.
I want you to make all the same things. You were making fenders for the Model A for Ford.
Yeah.
I want you to now start making helmets, and I'm going to pay you to rent all your warehouses, all your factories, and when you're done, it's all yours. The cost of you doing this for us is we're going to pay for everything. Sweet. We'll pay for you for 4 years. What was it? And then, sweet. Now we can just do whatever the hell we want.
Yeah. And I have, just so everybody knows this up front, I have no proof. I can't lay blame on a single person, right?
you could lay it on a group though.
Again, it's my gut feeling, and more often than not, when you do follow the money, it paints a pretty clear picture of who had the most to gain by what, by doing it.
Well, I think it's hilarious because they don't even try and cover it up anymore. It's really not like, oh, it's in secret and you can't find information about it anywhere. You can see if you follow the trail that the people who are making money from these wars are either the oil companies or the gun companies.
And it's written into the bills, like the whole entire.
Oh,
Like the-
look at Monsanto.
Or I was saying it legitimately, like when they said they were going to stop doing these wars and we're going to start doing this fence down by the border.
Right.
Yeah.
They hired 40,000 new troops to go down there, and they said they were going to buy drones to go down there. And written into the bill, we will buy the drones from these two corporations, and we're not going to buy one at a time. We're going to buy them in groups of 3. So it's not like $1.5 million for one drone. It's going to be $4.5 million for 3 drones. You can only buy them in groups of 3. Can't buy them one at a time. So it's like put it into a bill to make sure somebody else makes money,
Right.
not at a discount.
And
But you can only
likewise-
buy them in certain groups in
Likewise,
certain
when you
ways.
create a bill that says Monsanto will not be held liable for anything that it produces,
For 6 months, only 6 months, and it happened to be the 6 months after Europe fucking goes crazy
and
Because
finds
they
all
have-
this GMO.
because they have Frankenstein
crops.
wheat in all of their products, and we have Frankenstein wheat on the West Coast. 6 months only of them to have some leeway, legally wise, into a bill.
So who put that in
you
the bill?
don't. But I mean,
Who-
that,
the
like
thing
Junior
is,
said, that's as blatant to me as you can possibly get.
the thing is, even in retrospect, we should know, we should find out who put that in the bill, and they should be held responsible, accountable.
Yeah, but if you do that, you are going to uproot the entire government. The corruption is so thick, so deep into the roots of our system that the system has to be ripped out. You're talking about a tree
you're
that's
correct.
growing
We've
so
talked-
high that it's
right.
going to cloud, just like Rome did. It's like a tree that's grown so high, but the corruption has seeped into the roots.
And your dad and I have
It's gonna
talked about
collapse into
this,
itself.
about laws, about all these silly. I mean, there's laws about you can beat your wife on Sunday if you do it on the church or on the town.
or the
the
stick,
town.
a stick that's not
No
more
bigger than
thicker
your
than your
thumb,
thumb.
something.
Yeah.
I mean, when there's stupid laws like that are still in place, but we just haven't taken the time to get rid of them, and you have all these things that it's such a quagmire.
Mm.
Law is and politics that you almost can't make it better.
No, I mean, I
You
honestly
can't make
believe
it
that
better
the
right now
government
because
can't be
it's
fixed.
so tangled. It's so convoluted. So, what your dad and I have talked about before is because it seems so impossible. The easiest answer is to be like carpet bomb the whole thing. Let's start over. We're back at square effing one.
No, but the problem is we're going to have the same thing next time. Until we change our moral values and what we desire from life, we are going to end up with the exact same system. If we have a capitalistic democracy, again, it'll end up exactly where we are right now. I have no doubt that it'll lead to the exact same
I
finish.
think it's just cyclical. I think places they crumble and they fall and they learn from it, and then we have people like our founding fathers who were saying, not our founding fathers didn't say beware the industrial complex. We had a previous Eisenhower did, but we did have our founding fathers say, be careful of religion. Don't let religion take over the government.
Well, because they saw it happen in Britain in the 1500s.
So, I mean, it's cyclical. We see it can start out with the best of motivations, with the best of morality. And not that our founding fathers had the best of morality, but they had a much better grasp on it than we do now, I think.
Yeah, it's just tough when you read something like Howard Zinn's People's History of the United States. You learn that ever since the beginning, it's been the big guy screwing the little guy. From the very beginning, because we didn't come over from Europe with a new idea. We came over to escape being religiously persecuted, right?
Yeah.
But we weren't against religiously persecuting other people. We weren't against the government screwing over the little guy, or the higher class screwing over the little guy, I should say. We weren't against that. We came over with the exact same ideals, so nothing changed.
Right.
Like the Indians, they had a different ideals because they weren't from where we came from. But we brought over the ideals from Europe and brought it here. There's no wonder that we still have the same problems.
They even say that the term Indian giver came from the fact that Indians, in their culture, if I were to give Junior a belt of beads, he would, in return, give me another gift. So I'm going to give you something, you give me something. Whereas Europeans came over and said, if you give me something, awesome, that's mine. Thank you for the gift. That's wonderful. Thank you.
And they're like, what the heck?
But if I'm going to be a consumer, I'm going to give you something, you give me cash, or barter and trade. And so
I give you something, you give me something.
Yeah, it was a mix of, but it was
so
a
what's
mix
an
of
Indian giver?
cultures. So an Indian giver is a white European way of saying, I'm going to give you something and you need something back. That's an Indian giver. We use it as like, you gave me something and then you're taking it back from me.
See, I always looked at that saying as, dude, you're an Indian giver. I gave you a gift. I gave you something and you took something. You took it back. I gave it to you and you took it back. That's what I've for my whole life have thought that's the definition of an Indian giver.
And the
I've
idea
given you something and I've decided I don't want to give that to you. I'm gonna take that back. Is that kind of how you've thought about it?
Never even knew the term.
You've never heard the term Indian giver?
It, really?
Nope. Never heard it.
So
did you ever
play? I knew
to an Indian, the giving of gifts was an extension of the system of trade, and a gift was expected to be reciprocated with something of equal value. Europeans, upon encountering this practice, misunderstood it, considering it uncouth and impolite. To them, trade was conducted with money, and gifts were freely given with nothing expected in return. So this native practice got a bad reputation among the white colonists of North America, and the term eventually became a playground insult.
But it's a pretty simple idea, though. The Indian idea of an Indian giver, the actual idea of it. I mean, if you have, let's say, you're a farmer, but I'm a fisherman. If you have a pole and I have a plow, I'm like, I can't do anything with this plow. And I was like, oh, you have a pole. I could use that pole. Let's trade. And I give you the plow. You give me the pole. I can use it to fish, do my job. You can use it as a plow to do your farming job.
I mean, don't we call that barter?
But we're not trading. But we're not
like a barter system.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same idea, but we're not looking to gain. I mean, we are looking to gain, but mutually. We're trying to be a symbiotic, not like, oh,
you need something, I need something.
I'm going to get his plow and I can sell it for more money.
It's just like in that movie Phenomenon. I love that movie Phenomenon with John Travolta.
I love that movie.
That he might not be everybody's favorite, but I really like that movie because at some point he's like, "Hey, I need solar panels on my roof." And the guy he's talking to is like, "I don't know anything about solar panels." He goes, "Yeah, but you know about engines, and so needs his engine repaired, and he can install the solar panels, and then we're set." And no money had to exchange anywhere. Yeah. So it was to me, it was a good example of that.
Well, let me say the Hope and Change Strikes Again. It's a website. A provision may be people are many people are dubbing the Monsanto Protection Act was covertly inserted into an agricultural apposition.
Acquisition?
No.
Apposition?
Appropriations bill that
Appropriation.
President
You'll
Obama
get a
signed
drink.
Tuesday. The provision protects genetically modified seeds from litigation in the face of health risks and has thus I'm sorry, it's like everything is highlighted and asterisked.
It's really difficult to read it.
Dubbed the Monsanto Project by activists, blah, blah, blah. Since the act's passing, more than 250,000 people have signed a petition opposing the provision and a rally. Huh. In this hidden
250,000
backroom
people?
deal, Senator Miskuliski turned her back on consumers and the environment and farmer protection in favor of corporate welfare for biotech companies such as Monsanto, says Andrew Kimbrell, executive director of the Center for Food Safety, and it said in a statement according to IBT, this abuse of power is not the kind of leadership the public has come to expect from Senator Miluski or
Is
the
she a
the Democratic Party in the Senate.
Okay, so she's a senator from where?
Maryland.
Maryland. Okay, and so did she sponsor the bill?
Let me ask this. Many members of Congress were unaware that the Monsanto Protection Act even existed.
Then they
They
screwed up.
voted on H.R. 933 to avoid a shutdown, not exempt Monsanto and the GM companies from the rule of law.
Okay, that brings up something that has happened earlier. It's
This is
crazy, but it's
crazy.
understandable. And there was a guy who was running for president in this last electoral campaign, Herman Cain. He had made the comment, I want bills to be 3 pages long. No more, no less.
Right.
3 pages. And he was mocked horribly by Jon Stewart, who I usually love to death. But it made sense. It's not that he couldn't read. It's not that he was lazy. But if you have something really thick, I mean, look at the Patriot Act. It has thousands of pages. It would take years. It would take literally years to study a book that had thousands of pages to understand in depth how it all interrelates, and how it's going to affect the American
Right.
economic and Bill
Which
of Rights.
is their way out. That's their way out.
It is their way out, but that's what bothers me is because I laughed at Herman Cain, and he made a perfect argument. If you want to put in a bill, make it 3 pages. I want to be able to read it, understand it, and vote on it. I think that makes perfect sense. And he was made out to be a complete idiot.
I agree with you on that. But I also wonder and question the system that requires us to have to read all the things that to check and make sure we read every last part of a bill because we don't trust the people making the bills. That is odd to me that we have to, each and every bill we have to read and search every single word to make sure we're not getting screwed over. It just seems silly.
But it does seem silly, but obviously that is the world we live in because people are willing to sell their soul, and I don't necessarily know if I believe in a soul or not, but they're willing to give money for something they know is horrendously terrible.
But see, the system that we use endorses that. Capitalism endorses selling your soul for money. It is.
We talked about this earlier, though. So I'm going to piggyback off what you said. There has to be capitalism at a point that says, or has a part that has a morality worked into it. So it's not just about consumerism.
Capitalism
it's
is
not about
anti-morality. You cannot merge
And
capitalism
see,
and
I'm not
morality.
willing to accept that. I'm not willing to accept that. I think you can find a way to get between the two.
Who's the reporter, the spokesperson for RT that was on Joe Rogan?
Oh, what's her name?
Oh.
Yeah.
Because she gives the argument that why can't we create something other than capitalism?
Mhm.
There was
a new system.
There was was it surf system? No, a class system,
Like India?
right? Back in the day, medieval times, there's a class system, right?
Sure.
And then there's a system
Yeah, the
like
feudal system.
Marxism
He's right.
with communists, right?
Yeah.
And then we have something that somebody introduced and created called capitalism. I mean, capitalism is a new phenomenon. It's in all of human existence. This is kind of a new phenomenon.
And why can it not be modified?
Exactly. That's what we're saying.
But the system-
I think
you can modify.
I think you can
capitalism.
modify it.
I think capitalism has allowed America to be who it is, and so I think it is important. But I think there has to be a moral fabric that it's part of. And so you start saying, okay, so I'm a capitalist, so I'm Rockefeller, right? And so I'm like, okay, so I'm making 800% more money off of the production of coal in the 1860s and 70s. So I have a more obligation than the men who are killing themselves literally in the coal mines
to take care of their families and take care of them as best,
and their
as best
families in
possible.
safety. I don't need $100 million that back in the 1820s and 30s was gazillions of dollars.
And of
I'm
course,
going to make sure that everything is perfect. So that, I mean, there was no moral fiber worked into the beginning of it. And so now the idea of the American dream and capitalism now still has a tinge of that, where you have a guy who can sit on Wall Street and trade instantaneously with his computer and make hundreds of $1 millions a year, and he's 25 years old.
and again,
I mean,
when
come
that stuff was happening back in the day and people were beginners to capitalism,
right,
we were still playing off of the class system.
right. And there were
So the-
monopolies. Those were huge monopolies.
Right. So the people that were making the money were the people that were of the upper crust, upper class. So to think for a moment that they're actually going to think of you, to think of the lower class people and go, oh, morally, I need to do this. They've been living this class system for hundreds, if not thousands of years.
And that's why I associate with now. We
Well,
stop
now
thinking,
it's so different now. It's
Well, no,
it's
I
much
think that-
different.
No, if I'm the leader of McDonald's, right?
Look
and I
at the-
say,
I know, but look
forget
at the
about
power.
all the hundreds and thousands of people who work underneath me that make me my $9 billion a year. So I forget about the people who are toiling at the bottom. It's the same exact thing in my mind as Rockefeller saying, I am not going to think about the thousands of people who are in the
Rockefeller
coal
never said
mines.
this. We're assuming that he never said
I'm
it
sorry.
because he never followed through with it.
Right.
He did
I'm
create
assuming
the school
that-
system, though.
I am saying that. So
Yeah.
Modern school system.
thousands
Yeah,
of people.
don't get me going on the school system, dude.
I'm gonna forget.
Hate
I'm gonna
that
forget
shit.
about all these people who are toiling to get me this 800% rise in coal production, and I'm gonna enjoy my wealth. To me, it's the exact same thing. So I said this, like the old Gilded Age, and we have the new Gilded Age. Okay, and I'm gonna go back to what Junior said earlier with Howard Zinn, right?
Mhm, sure.
Who is a guy running for Congress, not running Congress, sorry, he's the governor for Indiana, Jeff Daniels. Right after Howard Zinn died, he tried to get his book, A People's History of the United States, banned from schools,
Why?
so he couldn't use it anymore.
Why?
Let's see. This quote, Daniels wrote, "This terrible anti-American academic has finally passed away." And he described a people's history as a truly execrable,
Exacerbated.
exasperable, anti-factual piece of disinformation that misstates American history on every page. Can someone assure me that this is not in use somewhere in Indiana? If it is, how do we get rid of it before more young people are force-fed a totally false vision of our history?
But we can force feed them our other false view of our history that only shows us as the good guys. That's okay.
Well, history is written by the
winners.
conquerors, by the
Yep,
winners. Yeah,
it's the winners.
right.
But the idea when you were talking about earlier that you could somehow morally infuse, or you could infuse morals into capitalism,
I saw you shaking your head. Go ahead.
that's wrong. You really
It's not
can't.
possible?
You can't because the basis on capitalism is get as much as you can while you can. That is the basis of it.
Okay.
You have to have a good base to build on top of it.
Reinvent?
You can
Yeah.
reinvent a new system, but to call it capitalism or to use the capitalism idea would never work.
But currently, we are using that term capitalism for the United States. Would you agree?
Yeah, we are a capitalist society, and that's why
Okay.
we have such class
All right.
division.
Hold on. But social
Hold your
sec-
tongue, young man.
Yeah. Well, yeah. When I hold up my finger, you shut the fuck up.
So, hey, before you start,
government now.
the definition of capitalism: an economic and political system in which a country's trade and industry are controlled by private owners for profit rather than by the state.
Yummy.
We've privatized government or our economy.
Okay.
So listen,
So wait, back to my point.
conservatives want it to be privatized. They don't want it run by the state.
Which
That's
is-
kind of an anti-capitalistic way of looking at it.
That's an anti-American way of looking.
But they're conservative. That's so odd.
'Cause it is an
all,
anti-
all the
American-
labels have just
Well,
been completely
whether you're a
redefined.
It's
So-
really convoluted.
It's
You're
really
right.
convoluted.
It's really, really.
But
Because
watered down.
Republicans from back in the day are nothing like. I mean, if you were to look at actually what Ronald Reagan did, he would not have survived the Republican Party primary.
And he
this
made some
go around.
horrible fucking choices when he was president.
I'm just saying that his views.
No, you're right.
He's held up on a pedestal by the Republican Party, but when you look at what he did and what he stood for and what he said back in the day, they would not want him.
Way too liberal. Well, I would say for Tea Partiers, most conservatives,
Okay.
Reagan is still pretty highly regarded.
Before I get off track, before I get too far off track, I was talking about we call ourselves capitalists today.
Okay.
But we are not total capitalists. There is a smidgen,
Of
a
socialism.
dash of what?
Of socialism,
Yeah.
like our mail.
Mail, Social Security.
Mhm.
You know? So we are redefined. We're not a total 100% capitalist country. We live that way. The majority of what we do in our actions would say that we are. But we also have ingredients, dashes of socialists, dashes of communist ideals, you know, just a little bit. So we are actually redefining ourselves as we are still calling ourselves capitalists.
Mhm.
So I think we can continue to call ourselves capitalists. I don't really care. I don't need to have a label. But I think we need to redefine there needs to be a moral code in capitalism and have it be called something else. Likewise, what your dad said earlier today about, who was it? The guy from Dell. The guy who you were saying, if this one guy is at Microsoft,
Drop $40,000.
drops $40,000.
Bill Gates.
He loses more money by turning around and picking it up than if he were to just walk on. Obviously,
People love to use
maybe that's an exaggeration, but if it's not an exaggeration, if it's not
Right.
that far off the mark, that dude is getting way too much fucking money.
Now listen,
You're really smart,
But that's
and you did.
capitalism.
let me be the devil's
That's
advocate
what
for
we're
a
talking.
second.
That's what we're talking about. When you're making so much money that I've dropped $40,000, that could change somebody's fucking life.
Let me say that's a crazy analogy, and it probably is true with the amount of money that he makes. But let's not say that he doesn't treat all of his workers incredibly well. People who help run Microsoft are well paid, well compensated people. He does philanthropy all over the world. His goal is to annihilate malaria from the globe, and he's putting money towards that. And I think
Is
it's
he killing mosquitoes?
yes. I think it's
He's
He's
getting rid of
wiping,
mosquitoes.
he's wiping out
it
the
out from the
mosquito
globe.
population.
That's his goal in his
He's a-
lifetime, to wipe it out from the globe.
Because I
committing
hate
genocide.
fucking mosquitoes.
Okay.
Can I vote? Is he running for president? Can I vote for him?
And I don't know if it's mosquitoes, but it is
I
malaria.
really fucking hate mosquitoes.
Me too.
And they have
So
no,
I'm just
they
saying
have no
that.
reason
So
to be here.
if I'm going to go back to Carnegie and some of the other people who are like,
What about for frogs? Don't frogs eat mosquitoes?
no, bats.
Well,
What about
frogs
the
do
bats?
too.
No, bats eat their weight in mosquitoes every night.
Circle of life.
Oh, it's terrible. Are your headphones on? So I'm going to go back to the Carnegie whole analogy.
Okay.
So I'm
All
going to consume and take in a tremendous amount of wealth in my life, right? And so then what I'm going to do is later on, when I've enjoyed 50, 60 years of wealth, while all my people have bottomed out, then I start being like Mr. Philanthropy, right?
Right.
I would honestly say that Bill Gates is the opposite of that. Yes, guess what? He changed the world kind of like Steve Jobs changed the world when it comes to personal computers. And that alone, because it's affected all of us in a very positive way for the most part, I think that's a good thing. And as he's alive, he's taking that money and he's spending it. He is giving it as fast as he's getting it. He is giving it away because he wants to influence the world in a positive way.
Right.
That is so different from capitalism back in the Gilded Age.
Capitalism now.
Okay.
Same thing.
But I
But-
mean, isn't what your dad's saying a perfect example of how we are reinventing capitalism? If we have somebody
It's
as
not
a
about
role
all
model,
we get now. It's about what we can do with it.
yeah. If we're looking at role models and who we want to model ourselves by, Bill Gates might be one of those people. Okay,
Yeah.
from what we hear in the media, from what Todd just said, he sounds like an amazing dude.
He
But
could like having sex with spider monkeys on every third Wednesday of the year, and we don't know anything about his crazy whatever lifestyle. I don't care about
Allegedly.
that. He changed the world.
Bill Gates does not have sex with spider monkeys.
Yeah, we're
He
not
changed-
we're not stating
I'm
this
being-
program.
We
does
all
not-
do it.
I'm
We all
being-
do it.
I'm being ridiculous. I'm just saying he changed the world in a positive way. You could not imagine the world without Microsoft
What
and
about-
personal
Do
computers.
they make sex dolls? Spider monkey sex dolls?
Do they make the fleshlight? Fleshlight spider monkey
Flesh-
edition?
Oh.
Fleshlight Spider Monkey Edition.
It's got the
Oh,
fur
how
on
do
the
you-
outside.
How do you clean those things?
Excuse me.
You just stick a hose up there and wash it
Anyways.
out.
Dishwasher.
I was trying
Don't
to
put
make-
it in
I
your
was trying to make
dishwasher.
a point.
Don't do that.
Don't do it.
So Bill Gates is a good guy.
Well,
but I'm just,
what he's doing
Steve
with a
Jobs,
lot of his money.
Same thing. A tremendous amount of money, and he changes people's lives with it.
Okay.
He's not just. He had a house
Are,
in
are
Palo
you gonna,
Alto. He's
let me
not
know when
trying
you're
to
done
be-
jerking him off.
I'm talking Steve Jobs now.
Yeah,
He
He's
had a
trying to get a
regular
Tell me
house.
when
He's
you're
trying
done
to get a
jerking off
donation.
Steve Jobs, because we have
He had a regular
we have
home.
iPhones that are being produced with a material inside, so it's 4G. Comes from one place on the planet, and we're annihilating those people. We're treating them like total dog shit. So when you raise people up like Steve Jobs up on a pedestal, let's look at the reality of how he's impacting people. Yeah, we have iPads and iPhones and Apples and computers as we knew it 10 years ago, completely different now because of him. Thank you.
But see,
But there's corporations and factories overseas where they had to put up fucking suicide nets.
to produce their product.
Yeah. And if that product wasn't invented by Steve Jobs, maybe they would have suicide nets for something else. Okay.
can you
No,
imagine
that's,
that though?
That's okay. But I'm just saying that. But,
But-
we've even talked about the fact that if they produced Apple products here, we as Americans, like the Big Mac, if we gave workers for McDonald's $15 an hour, we pay 60 cents more for a Big
Sure.
Mac. If we had Apple products made here in America, we would pay $25 on average more for iPhones, iMacs, iPads. So would we be willing to do that?
We're such lazy bitches though.
We are lazy bitches. I'm not saying that iMacs or Apples or any of this stuff is necessarily bad. I'm just saying when you look at somebody and you think for a second that you're going to raise them up on a pedestal and talk about them like they are the next coming of Jesus, for a moment realize they're human. And everything that good that they brought into it, intentionally, they're trying intentionally to do something good.
Right.
The side effects are they've also brought some really negative shit
Or
with
the
them too.
the capitalistic aspect of it is that we're going to produce this for the cheapest amount of money we can possible to make the most amount of money possible. Back to the old age, which is like, how much money does fucking Apple need? How much was one man need? If we can have him produced in America and he takes a cut by $2-3 million a year in his profit as the owner of Apple, is that okay?
I don't
I mean,
know.
I totally agree. I'm just saying that maybe he wasn't aware as he needed to be about how his product was produced, because I would hope that if you and I came up with some glorious thing and we thought, you know what, you and I could make $5 million each more a year if we produce it in China, or we could
I need the plug-in.
do
Sorry about that little break.
technical difficulties. Or we could make $2 million a year and have it produced in America and have American jobs handling those. I would be hard pressed for you and I to say, oh boy, you know what? I can get an extra boat, an extra car, an extra house if we,
I would
hook
honestly,
ourselves up with that. I would be hard pressed for you and I. I'm saying you and I,
Right.
Matt and Todd, to make that kind
And
of
Junior.
sacrifice.
Can-
That sounds ridiculous to me.
can
Well-
can I end the politic point on a good note, on a positive note?
Oh,
Sure.
please,
All
drop
right,
some
let's-
knowledge.
yeah.
Do it.
Go ahead.
I believe, honestly, that our society is going to make a complete shift away from capitalism. Not that capitalism we've talked about, and I've been convinced that could become a good, positive moral thing.
Yay.
Our society will take a complete shift from single individualism to unity. That the people of the world will start making decisions and actions for the good of humanity, not just for me. And that's why I'm so down on capitalism, because that's the idea of capitalism itself, is individualism, right?
Right.
Socialism is to help the whole idea. I don't believe in socialism either. I don't think it could work. But you talked about how once we get to the point of Bill Gates or the point of Steve Jobs, we can start to be, good people, philanthropists that give away our money, right? The Native Americans were doing that with no money, with nothing. They were hunters and gatherers, but they still spread everyone. No one went hungry in an Indian tribe, especially in the northern tribes.
Correct me if I'm
Nice.
wrong, though. They also did not have. They were also responsible, and they didn't have kids like crazy because they understood that, hey, we can't feed those kids. Well, they also, when an older person in the or in their tribe couldn't fulfill their duties, they allowed them to walk off and die in the
Well,
woods.
they
and
chose to do
that
that.
person chose. That person was part of the circle to
I'm
the
just
point where
saying-
they said,
I'm
no, you're
just
right.
saying,
You're absolutely right.
when
They
we're
said,
talking about how great they are, they were
Everybody-
also they also battled shit out because they were hunter gatherers. They had to
But
move.
see, war in the Native American societies was very honor based, not so much let's kill as many people as we
I
can
know,
kind of
but
idea.
so were the samurais.
Sure, but these guys would to poke each other with sticks to prove how ballsy they were. That's the thing. They didn't have to go up and stab
rushing on
someone.
horses
and
and whack
poke 'em
somebody and poke them
with a
and
stick.
then run out and say,
That's how like
could have
badass
fucked you
you
up
were.
and killed you, but I didn't do it. But you know I'm a
'Cause you're a
badass.
pussy.
I know, but there are examples. You can't say that all the Native American tribes were like that.
There
There
were
were Native
many-
American tribes that were bloodthirsty.
Sir,
killing
South
The
American-
life
machines.
of Tecumseh, I'm telling you, it's like 3 inches thick. But
I'm
it is,
3 inches thick.
That's disgusting.
said your
But it's
mother
only,
when you
it's
were
only
born.
3 inches long.
The life
Oh,
of
the
long,
big
thick.
chode.
I always get long and thickness
tuna can,
messed up.
Tuna can. The life of Tecumseh is like 3 inches thick, and I'm telling you, one of those inches is just footnotes of all the places in history that he's gone back and looked at the things that he
Well,
was
that
talking
sounds
about.
like a fun read.
It's a horrible read, but it's so amazing to read and see what he was thinking and why they did what they did. They would go in, like when somebody died, they wanted the family cleanse their bodies. They would go to the river and pull up, like it wasn't sand, but it was like
Silt?
like peat rock, kind of like these little rocks. They would swallow them into their stomachs and gyrate their stomachs and then vomit them back up to kind of cleanse themselves and start anew as the new people and the people that lived and somebody else was born. I mean, we're talking like really down to earth, crazy, awesome ways of connecting themselves, grounding themselves with their family and the circle of life. And if somebody decided to walk off on their own, that was their choice. Nobody said, "Hey, Gramps, we can't keep feeding you, so you probably want to head off this winter and take care of yourself." That person knew on their own, I am done. I'm happy. You talk about this all the time. The right of you to want to do what you want to do, right?
Right.
So these guys did that. They said, "I'm done. I've been around a long time. I am happy. I'm going to go sit underneath a tree and go to sleep and freeze to death at night, and I'm done. I'm with a great spirit. I'm set."
The idea I was trying to make was not that Indian tribes were great, though they were. I think they're really one of the greatest cultures to ever exist. My point was to say that I believe that we will, in the future, work towards a state of complete world unity. Not a world government, because I don't think we'll need to be governed.
And then the apocalypse. Oh, God, my kid.
I think we're going to do that out of necessity instead of desire.
To unify, you mean?
I think we're going to the only thing I think the only way we will change is when we get to that brink, when we get to the cusp of ruin,
The precipice.
and when we're on the edge and we're like, oh my God, we only have two choices. One, fall into the fucking precipice, and that's it.
We're done.
We're done.
Let's set off all the nukes,
Right.
or we have to completely reject where we were and go into this other path. And I think that's really the only way we would do it. Not because, yay, we want to. You have to
Right.
wait. You have to get to the point to where life sucks so bad.
Reality
Total
sets in.
collapse happens.
Yeah.
But see, will we ever get to a point in which the top will never stop ruling and the bottom will ever stop not?
I don't know. It's always
I would-
happened.
I
I mean,
mean,
from the
the
day
The
from
top has
beginning of
always
time
been
it's
a
happened.
top because it's had people supporting it. It's always had workers supporting it. It's always had middle management supporting it. If you had at some point the bottom drop out from corporations, if you had people stop buying McDonald's, it would fail. If you had people stop buying stuff,
Really?
like,
Did the banks fail?
Oh snap!
Oh,
no,
Snapdragon.
I'm talking about one thing.
Yeah,
Come on.
you're talking about corporations failing. I'm talking. There's a whole banking system.
And I'm
So if
talking
everybody
eventually.
stopped paying their mortgage, and is
But
the
not
bank gonna
everybody's
start
gonna do it.
policing everybody? If everybody said these guys are fucking crazy, I'm done paying them, and everybody, let's start a revolution.
You're talking
We're not
about
gonna pay
class
our mortgage
warfare.
anymore.
What I'm talking about is
I
the
know.
top,
Dude,
not
you're talking
wanting.
Fight Club. And one thing we don't talk about in Fight Club is Fight Club. Rule number one.
What I'm talking about is the
And
top
two.
no longer feeling like they need to screw us in order to gain money. The top realizing that the way to enlightenment and a positive life is not money, so they stop, scrounging for it and screwing everyone else over.
That way of thinking never will happen.
I believe
Well,
it will.
I mean,
The
it might
only
be-
way that
why
those,
do
little
billionaires
credit-
kill themselves? If money is the equal to happess, why do billionaires kill themselves?
and
That's
why
the idea.
and why do really super rich people in California still need marriage counseling?
Because
Hey, no, I'm just saying. Why are there so many divorces and marriage counseling and all this stuff? And somebody walks into
Because
their
mine
home.
doesn't
and
buy you
somebody-
happiness. That's
exactly,
why.
but people will
That's
realize
exactly
that
what he's
eventually,
saying.
and people will
That's
realize that eventually, and that's when we go, well. And this whole idea of us trying to screw you over doesn't make us happy, so I'm going to stop doing it.
But
Let me
you know
give
what
you a
does
little
make
caveat.
me happy?
What?
Power. Power.
That's what it has to be, because I just recently had my student loans transferred. Right, I was paying a certain amount for my student loans.
We're
And
never-
Todd
we're
is
never gonna switch
75
over.
years old. and
We're
he's
never
still
gonna
paying
when
switch
I'm
for it.
done paying my student loan, I'll be 75. So, and then I found out that direct loans, my government sponsored loan, right, was sold to a private company. And because before it was sold, they hadn't got all my loans locked in, so I was paying a certain amount of money per
Right.
month. The new company said, "Hey, what do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I was on this program with direct loans." And they said, "Oh, okay, well, we can do that too." I'm like, "Awesome. If you can transfer that over, that'd be great. Thank you." Like, sure, we can do that. So that'll be, instead of $90 a month, it'll be $150 a month. And I'm like, why is it so much more? Well, we're a private company. We're not the government program. And I said, okay, so in the next 10 years, I'm going to pay you $60 more a month than I was paying them. So I'm going to pay you $7,200 more in the lifetime of my loan than I was going to pay them, because they sold it to you, a private fucking company,
Without your knowledge.
without my knowledge. Oh, on my knowledge, without my choice. They could absolutely
Yeah,
notify
that's
me
what
of
I'm
it.
trying to get at. Without
Fuck
your
yes.
choice, without your knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like,
Are we going to transfer?
How
we're
much
gonna-
money do
know
you
what student
need?
loans make me feel? They make me feel horny.
Wow.
They get me ready to talk about
From the
sex.
mouth of
me out.
babes.
That's gross.
No, seriously. When you talk about student loans, I think about college and I think about freaky, let's experiment. It's okay.
Menage a trois. I
I'm a
always want to do
doctor.
that.
You know what? I don't think I could. I've never been a part of that
I could do it either.
experience.
I don't know.
It sounds erotic. The fantasy sounds erotic, but I don't think I could never be a part of that with somebody I truly care about.
No. And the idea of like people talking about twins, I could
Ick.
not have sex with two sisters.
What? Are you guys
Oh.
crazy? I did
Are you-
that. Oh, I didn't have sex, but I made out with them.
With twins?
You made,
No,
I think
well, I've
there's a
done
big
all-
difference
I've
between
done-
kissing two sisters and getting naked. And
There's not that big of a difference for me.
Is that your hand? Is that my hand?
Yeah,
Is that
there's a
her
big
hand?
difference there, Junior.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
To have sex with two different sisters, I don't. That is because they don't have a connection to me, right? So I don't.
No,
care.
we're talking about
And
two twin sisters at the same. Everybody's like, twins is a
Yeah.
big fucking
Yeah.
deal.
So, but they're not your twins. Who cares?
No, my idea
Dude,
of
the
having sex
idea
with
that
two
two-
One's shaved, one's not.
sisters-
Just think of them as
two
different
sisters
people.
are having sex with you. It just grosses me out. He can't get
dude,
it.
I love this. I love this. I want to go forever on this subject. This makes me happy and giddy. You know what? If you were listening to the beginning of the podcast and you're like, "Oh God, this war, this military stuff
government
is
shit
really
again."
depressing," and I really hope we get
It
into
ends
something
in
more exciting.
twins.
We're there. Okay,
Big
So
rave.
I'm just saying, I could never, me personally. I think fantasy is worth its weight in gold.
Totally agree.
Flesh for fantasy.
No, not
Billy,
flesh for
Billy Idol.
Whether it's twins or it's Hostess cupcakes.
Did
the
your
idea you
19-year-old
have
just quote Billy Idol?
Yeah, he did.
Flesh.
I'm telling you, you're right. Fantasy is much better because the idea of twins or the idea of me, I haven't had any Hostess cupcakes for so long because they've been like,
I don't
How,
know.
did you
They've
just
been,
equate food with sex?
yeah.
That's why
absolutely.
you're fucking fat, dude.
What
You
a
cannot equate
what a wonderful,
sex with
what a wonderful
food.
guy. So loving.
Thank God we've been friends for almost 20 years.
I think you made that comment a long time ago that the idea of what something is so much greater than it really is.
Yeah.
So whether it's twins or, again, Hostess cupcakes or relationships or people,
Oh, yeah.
it's always so much bigger than it really.
That's why distance makes the heart grow fonder, I think. Because
There you go.
stop
Oh, yeah.
having a real relationship and start thinking about what the relationship would be like
You
when you're doing it. Yeah.
romanticize
Yeah.
the idea of somebody.
Exactly.
That actually ruined my first marriage. Not space making the heart grow fonder. It was me starting a relationship really quickly before I went into the military.
Mhm.
Really quickly. I hadn't seen somebody in a year or 2 years. All of a sudden I see them a month before I go to basic. And then from that month on, nonstop, we were together, right? And then I go to basic, can't stop thinking about her. I romanticize all these thoughts. You know, she's so great. She's so
Gross.
into me. This is so wonderful.
And she was.
And then I get out of basic and airborne school, and I'm thinking, I come home on leave, boom, let's make this serious. Let's get crazy, you know? Let's move, let's get engaged.
Next level.
Next level. And
I
we
was
were
there.
only
I was there.
Yeah, you were there. That was
So was your mother.
I really enjoyed surprising her, right? It was wonderful. But because we had that distance and because I romanticized every aspect of her, I didn't see her anymore. So when I saw the real her, I was disappointed. Not because of anything physical, but because of the idea
The idea in your head didn't match the
Oh.
picture.
of how she would act, how she would treat me, how into me
Sure.
she was completely false. And I never was able to come to terms with that because even when we did get married and she moved down to North Carolina with me, I was always gone. I was always doing something, right? I would be gone for months at a time or weeks at a time. And when I came back, again, I had this idealized thought in my head of what she was like
Right.
and what she should be like. So when we were together again, I was like, hello, ready to insert myself into your life again.
Which
know?
they say in and of itself is a really tough deal.
Yeah. So that whole absence makes the heart grow fonder actually ruined my first marriage, my first real serious relationship. What do you guys think of well, we talked a little bit about porn a little bit with
It's
the
great.
twins and stuff like that. Do you think that helps or hurts a relationship?
Hurts.
Hurts. Because they've shown through studies that
I'm gonna totally be the devil's advocate on
Good.
this one. Go ahead.
it's a scientifically proven study that men
Right.
who jerk
I
off
fuck-
to porn
I screw
because
with
they have
science.
this idea of what sex should be like with a woman when they actually get in bed with a normal woman, the average gal who may not be 36, 24, 36, or,
Was that a song? 26,
I
26,
hope not
36,
because you sing it
24, 36.
terribly. That
think
all of a
it's
sudden we get in bed
NWA.
with somebody
I
and we're
think
like, wait a
NWA
second,
sang
you're
that.
not like the porn girl that I saw. And they can't get erect. They can't get excited because they're not the idealistic person that they think it's going
Okay.
to be.
You want my
And
counter
plus,
argument?
porn is horrible when it comes to, if I
Listen,
think,
I
because
think
when
it's
I grew up in high
beautiful.
school, when I had sex with my first girlfriend, it was more of like, regular sex. It was like missionary, doggy style, her on top. It was generic sex. And you watch porn, it's like anal, double penetration,
ATM,
fisting,
facials,
animalistic.
you
swallow.
name it. It's just like everything. It's like, well, not everybody is into that stuff. You
Right,
know what I
okay.
mean?
This is the counter.
And if you are, you're a special lady. Good for you.
my number is 319. All right, now, now this is where the counterpoint to your argument is. You have to look at it from a slightly different point of view. Take a look at it from my point of view. I have a lot of friends and coworkers. I can't even tell you how many have made this argument, or I've heard them just bitch and moan about how they're not getting enough sex, just on and on and on. And these are people that are having sex, but they can't get enough. And these guys just every day they come into work and, hey man, how was your night? It sucked. I couldn't get any. What? Yeah. First I started out with, hey, you want to have sex? And she'd say no. And this is a true story.
This is the best story ever.
This is a true story. So help me God, this happened. So I said, okay. So you didn't have sex. You asked her if she wanted to have sex. She didn't want to have sex. He goes, I know. So I'm laying there and I think, hey, give me a hand job. No, she said. And he degrades himself more. Could you just watch me? No. Can I jerk off on you? No.
See, then
I mean,
follow up
it's
with
so
eat out.
pathetic.
It is. It's a
so
horrible downward
pathetic.
spiral.
And this is where I think
humiliation.
porn comes in and is an actual aid
Oh, I guess then you could go and do it
to a
yourself.
couple, to a marriage. Instead of a guy feeling so sexually frustrated because there's so much of us that we're just chemicals. You know, the majority of our decision making, the majority of how we interact with people throughout the day and how we carry ourselves and how happy we are is a chemical reaction that's happening inside of us. And if you think I'm wrong, introduce a chemical into your body that you're not used to, and you will act completely fucking different.
Yeah. Pot, marijuana.
Okay.
Marijuana.
So when you have an ejaculation, when you have a release as a man, your way of thinking changes instantaneously. I could be thinking about sex all day long. Now, I may know my wife well enough to know it ain't happening tonight. All right? I'm not gonna fool myself. I'm not gonna go the extra mile. I'm not gonna try to, do all the right things and coerce her. I'm not gonna do like a guilt fuck.
Right.
Feel bad for me, please. Would you do it for me? Okay, I'll lay here. No, yuck. Gross, right?
Exactly.
I'll go take a shower, jerk off. And if I need to jerk off 2 or 3 times
So be it.
to satisfy this chemical response to get me back to zero in my head,
Right.
I'll fucking do it. And you know how many times my wife and I have fought about sex? 0. In almost 13 years, never have we ever fought about sex. Ever.
Good for you.
That is almost a goddamn miracle, dude. When you start having friends who have relationships and they're married, and you start interacting in these circles, that social norm, it is extremely rare to have a relationship where you don't argue about sex. And that's the counterpoint to what you're saying about porn. I use porn to have that release, to quickly have that release, and it doesn't affect my relationship with my wife. She
Right.
accepts that side of me, and we never argue about sex.
I would say the exact same thing for my relationship. That's an accepted part of our relationship as well. But I'm saying that overall, when it comes to young men, maybe
I
it
think
should
it-
not be attributed to married men.
I think it applies to young men the most. Like I would know because I'm part of that generation.
Yeah, lay it down for us.
I'll lay it down for you. It's gross.
I don't want to. Don't
Do we-
lay
Because
down
you have
really
a
gross
hazmat suit? You mean a
shit.
hazmat suit?
You have
I don't want a hazmat suit.
Is that something moving? All right.
so you have I discovered porn at a really young age. I was in about 6th grade, which is I'd say about 10 or 11.
Pretty fucking average.
Yeah, but
pretty
still,
average.
I mean, for
Yeah,
a
young
child
age.
it's a child still. You're 10 or 11.
Dude, my first experience, Debbie Does Dallas 2. Not even the first one. It was the second
I saw
one.
Girls Gone Wild.
All right. Not
That's
even
not porn,
close.
though.
Oh yeah, it was. It was real. No, it was like the porn edition. It was VHS.
Okay.
It was the porn edition. It was VHS.
But what I'm
Like,
trying to
so-
get at is that
If you had said DVD, I would have been convinced. But you said VHS. I'm not
Wrong.
sure the
They
extended
were
version was on.
great.
All right.
on
All right.
They were
VHS.
great.
No, I want your point of view.
Okay,
Go ahead.
My
Go ahead.
point of view is that at the age of, if you become, I'd almost call it sexually active in a way that you want to, if you start wanting to masturbate so young like that, you're not going to find a girl who's sexually active at that age.
No.
So
Sure.
if you become, active like that and you want to, jerk off, and at that young, you do like all the time, right?
Sure. It's your
Then,
new best friend.
Yeah. Then you will, from like age 12 to 16 or so, maybe 15,
Yeah.
you're going to be doing it every night by yourself with porn. And eventually it's going to get a little harder to do it every time because you like the crazier stuff. So you're there every night for, an hour.
Relax over there. Just smacking your fucking mic around.
Yeah, I can only imagine his penis.
Wham,
It's
wham,
terrible.
wham. Look at the calluses on that dude's hand. All right, go ahead.
No, they're very smooth because of the lotion. But the idea is that you get so you get so desensitized to images and sexual images at such a young age that when you get older, it takes a little bit more.
Yeah. And that's totally legit. That's not bullshit. I mean, when I've looked at porn or when guys get Playboy magazine back in the day when that came out, there's a reason why there's a different centerfold every month. Okay? Because there's that variety. Looking at the exact same one picture isn't going to do it. Guys become desensitized to that
Right.
one image, that one facet. So it makes sense with today's age of porn on cell phones and everywhere that you up the ante, so to speak.
Right.
And
But see, I'm not so sure it's like the craziness.
I think
Because
it
me
is.
personally is like, if I were to me, just watching people have sex is enough. And so it's not like I have to see something crazy. To seeing some girl get like doubly penetrated, to me is just, I'm not sure if I find that totally exciting. Because to quote a famous young man that I used to know back in the day, that was married to one of your aunts, I'm not going to rub sticks with anybody. So the whole idea of double penetration seems a little too intimate, guy on guy kind of stuff.
See, you grew up looking at Playboy, which is just pictures of naked ladies.
Dude, I grew up looking at porn, not Playboy.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay, but did you look at the kind of like hardcore style that internet porn offers today?
probably not. No.
Okay, so the first one I ever saw was a facial. Who knows what was going to happen? But it does give you that sense that you're especially right now for me, I'm never going to see that right away, or that
Wait,
crazy
wait,
that
you
crazy
can't-
stuff.
I'll never see that. Well,
I hope.
not right away. I hope. Hey,
Fingers
Dad.
crossed.
Hey, Dad. Fingers crossed. I'll see it soon.
I'll meet the right girl, the special girl in my life.
They're the one you can bring home for Christmas.
Oh, that's
funny
great.
story. My first blowjob, right? What that I was receiving. This was a real eye opener to
I hate the story. Go ahead. It's one of the
anyway, go to
worst.
Iowa City. I get hooked up with this girl from a friend who's like, "Hey, you'll really like her. You and her, I think, would hit it off." So I go and meet her the very first time, right? So we're talking, we're hanging out for a little bit. She's like, "Hey, did you want me to? Should we go somewhere else?" I'm like, "All right." So I'm driving my crappy two-tone brown AMC hatchback.
Sweet ride, by the way.
Sweet ride with the sheepskin covered seats.
Sweaty, smelly.
16.
How old were you? 16.
Yeah, 16. This is my first car. So we go to this pseudo private area right behind the development that she lives in, right? And so I was like, "Hey, I got a blanket. We got some food. We'll have like a little picnic." I totally did not think anything was going to happen. I was so young. I didn't expect anything. I didn't know what to expect, right? So it gets to the point. However, it gets to the point to where she is giving me a blowjob, and I come, right? I'm on my back, and she's hovering over me. But when I do, I got this image in my head that she just got a mouthful of Sunkissed, and it just tastes awesome.
Woohoo! You're welcome.
Yeah, I want to like pet her on the arm and go, "Merry Christmas, good job."
You're welcome.
You're welcome. I mean I didn't do
Well,
that.
because you felt so
I
good.
didn't do that,
You're
but-
like,
Yes, I
Don't
felt really
associate the two
good.
together,
And
yeah.
from
Lack
the
of
porn
knowledge.
experience
Oh.
up until that point, I thought it must just be a genetic thing that all women love the taste of cum. They must just love semen.
Right.
But when she spit it back at me, and it was like the Matrix, dude. She was like, whoa. And I arched my back and it landed to the left of my torso. That's when it hit.
Fucking gross.
Yeah. That's when it hit me. One, always make sure they know when you're about ready to come. And two, do something like, hey. And two, life is not a porn. Life is not, it never plays out like that porn. Don't expect your girlfriend to be like that porn actress, because when that happened, I was like, it was traumatic for me, and I could not reach that level from a blowjob until I was like 26, like 10 years later.
Jesus
My
Christ. Because it scarred you so bad?
Yeah, because in my head, I just associated that with women. Like, we do not like this. Don't ever do this. It's not sexy.
We're going to spit it back at you.
I will spit it in your eye. Right. And for me, I can't reach that level of release unless I know that the person I'm having sex with is getting as much out of it as I am.
Sure. Absolutely.
So if I am thinking you're going to hate what I'm about to do, I'm not going to be able to do it.
Totally.
At all.
Totally get it. Yeah. You're right. Because, that's part of it. That's part of intimacy. That's part of trust. That's part of sex with anybody, is that we're accepting each other and we're going to do what we're going to do together with the idea that it's consensual, no matter what it is. And if we're not going to do it, then we're going to stop.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way it goes.
And I think it feels good when your partner is feeling good as well. Like, it doesn't feel as good for me as if they aren't enjoying it as well.
Right.
That was just
he was raised right.
That was
God,
a concept that
right.
never entered
It's
my
not
brain.
I don't care. It's just it feels good for me when someone else feels good too.
Right. But that never entered my brain in high school. Never, ever, never once did it ever enter my brain that, I truly thought, my penis is inside you. You must be on cloud 9.
That's why you're considered a whore in high school.
Thanks, Todd.
Just kidding.
I don't want to relive the fact that how I was viewed in high school, but I appreciate it. But that was my level of intellect that I associated.
Well, don't
with
you
sex.
think that most young men, I would say junior here, is a little bit more enlightened than the average dude, in that most guys think that, oh, hey, you're gonna fuck me? You want to fuck me? You must think that I'm the shit, and if I'm gonna stick my dick in you, then you know what? I'm the shizzle.
I think it also comes from how you meet the person and what your relationship is with the person before you have sex. Like, if you know someone for a while before you have sex with them, or it becomes physical, then you feel a lot differently towards them in the bedroom. Whilst if you were just getting drunk and at a party and some girl's like, hey, let's go to the bedroom, you don't really care that much about that person.
Now that's somebody I could have a menage a trois with.
Everyone's gonna be happy.
Back in the day, when you would go to a party and you hook up with a girl and you're like, hey, let's go in the back, or she tells you, hey, let's go in the back.
Yeah,
that's the type of relationship. I'm like, all right, you know what? I don't really care about your feelings. You obviously want to get off.
I've heard women say that they want to hook up with a guy because let's just do something fucking crazy.
It feels good.
I don't care who you are.
Yeah,
you're hot. I'm hot. Let's do it.
What now? When you think about all this stuff, how do you think that relates to the idea of marriage?
Jesus.
No,
we're leaping.
We're talking about sex, and obviously that eventually that relationship is going to turn to marriage.
I couldn't imagine
because
being married.
You can't have sex with somebody before you can't have sex with somebody without being married to him, right?
That's right. I was married at 16.
Well, it's just a blowjob.
But you can never, ever
or anal.
marry somebody who you haven't slept with.
It's okay.
You can't marry somebody you haven't slept with. You can't do it. Sorry.
Well, you
For
can't,
all the
you can
virgins
do
out
it. It's
there,
just not going to work out really well.
God bless you. Literally, because I don't know. What if you're like, real? Oh my God, this guy's the shit. I can't wait for God to bless our marriage and we have sex, and he has like a 1-inch penis.
The guys
he
that
doesn't
have
know anything he's doing, and it's just like nothing but an agony. So your whole life is built around that.
You know,
Now,
this-
I realize God is the relationship that you're marrying, and that doesn't matter. But at the same time, I'm going from a Christian point of view.
Sure.
Here.
I'm going to go from a Christian
on.
point of view here in a second too.
Go for it.
The same people that engage in I'm going to get married in the way of thinking of I'm going to get married first and then I'm going to have sex are the same men that go into sexual reorientation therapy later on in life. Okay. Oh, you just now found out that you were gay?
Well, supposedly Tim Tebow's still a virgin. He's not married yet. Supposedly he's never had sex that's not
Yeah.
with
What a
with somebody
liar.
else.
And you know what?
You know what? Part of me, I honestly believe him.
I'm not saying that Tim Tebow's gay. I'm not saying that. I'm not. I'm just saying don't be surprised if and when that statement ever comes out.
Well, because
Oh,
he doesn't.
he
He doesn't
didn't-
know. If he were to have sex with a woman now and be like, "Oh shoot, I don't like this,"
No.
Then it'd be fine,
You
right?
would
That's what you're
know.
trying to say?
No.
I can
saying,
see you being like, oh my God, just jerking off all the time, and like, I'm a 25-year-old man. Jesus, I've never had sex. What the hell am I gonna do? I'm in the shower every 15 minutes. Good gracious, what's going on? All
you
these
have a
women.
condition if that's happening every 15 minutes. That's what's
Why is
going
my
on.
hand growing hair? I hate this.
No, I think I don't think of the people that don't have sex for a long period of time, those people who are virgins, I don't think that they would have sex with somebody and then go, "Oh, I guess I'm gay." I think people who are gay know they're gay. They know that the opposite sex or the same sex attracts them. You know, they just know that. But they don't want to show that because they are too insecure and because of societal
That's
harassing.
the idea, is that if
They
these guys are
don't come out.
virgins and they're virgins because they want to please God, then that means they're a pretty hardcore Christian. And something that's frowned upon in hardcore Christianity is homosexuality.
Right.
So
and
if
we
they're
talk
like-
to any priest.
Yeah, so if they're like, hey, I can, if I can just have sex with a girl, maybe I'll like it, and then I can not be gay. Because these guys really do. Some of them do believe that they can change to not be gay anymore. And by the time they have sex, that's when they're like, shit, I just can't do it. I don't like it. And I
Right.
think that's why you have these guys that come out so late and that they honestly don't know, or they don't want to believe that they're gay because they haven't had sex yet.
Right. I just watched Religulous, and Bill Maher goes and talks with a ex-gay man who runs a sexual
yeah.
reorientation therapy. In fact, I was at work. What a great job I have. But I was at work when I viewed it, that section anyway, and somebody called me on the phone. A friend of mine called me on the phone, and I go, yeah, this is, I answer the phone, and they said, they go, what are you doing? I go, oh, I'm just watching a documentary about sexual reorientation. And
Whoa.
it caught him so off guard. It was a girl who called,
Oh.
and she was a friend of mine.
This is your boss.
No, I would not. Well, I might say that to my boss because he would just die laughing. But it was just a segment in that religious skit.
Mhm.
But it took her off guard so bad. It's like you don't expect to hear that from anybody,
Yeah.
just out of the blue.
They say nothing most of the time. Nothing.
I wanted to talk about, we talked about marriage and we talked about porn and cheating and all this stuff with relationships. What do you think about the idea that our egos get in the way of our happiness and we allow our egos to truly mess with?
Can you define ego? What's your idea of? What is the definition of ego?
Well, like my own personal self-interest.
It's not your self-conscious. It's your conscious person. Is what
Right.
the ego is, right?
Right.
You're a thinking person.
I'm sorry. Yeah, because I was thinking about this the other day when I was thinking about DOMA, Defense of Marriage Act, right? And I thought, how often does it happen where you have your ego gets in the way and you keep fighting that good fight, even though you could come to a different agreement of terms
Sure.
so that people are treated equally and fairly?
But that falls back on the idea of why are your terms okay and then I have to have different terms? Why can't they all just be the same terms? I totally understand where you're coming from.
Well, yeah, the argument.
That's
the argument
though,
is
is like, why do we have to have separate terms? We are people. We are the same.
no,
We need the same terms.
no.
Go ahead.
And the only reason I say no, I'm not trying to take gays and lesbians and put them on a different pedestal or a lower pedestal or a higher pedestal. You're right. Biologically, we're all the same and we should have all the same rights. But if group one over here is the fundamentalist Christian group, right, with politicians in it, and they say, listen, the idea of marriage, that term, that idea is sacred to us. They say that, but then you have a ton of people cheating on their wives who are, of course, defending marriage. But but that's fine because that is part of their religion, right? But then you have
Right.
then you have the other group over here who says, they start out with the argument, we just want the same legal rights. We want the same what are you doing over there? It's hard to concentrate when you guys are
I'm sorry, I have a picture.
That's really awesome.
It's pretty awesome.
It's really, really awesome. You can just leave that picture up. I'll try to concentrate.
Do you find those women attractive?
No,
Yes,
I don't.
I do.
I
don't.
Actually, I don't either.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Can I finish my thought?
Yeah, we looked at. I'm sorry. We were looking at a picture of some women that were
CrossFit
doing
ladies.
a CrossFit competition.
They are ripped.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them are all shredded, and they all have
Six
six
packs.
pack. Oh, absolutely.
But
If
they
not-
could beat our ass.
Yeah, absolutely. But we don't find
Okay.
it attractive. Go
This
ahead.
is what I was saying.
Well, I find that part attractive.
Okay. When the gay and lesbian groups, if they could have come to an agreement and said, okay, I'm not fighting for the term, the definition, the word marriage. We're not fighting for that particular thing. What we're fighting for is the same legal rights as anybody who is married. Okay? If we have the same rights legally, then that's all we care about, because up until this point, that's what's pissed us off, because we are not held under the same law as being considered the same as a married couple. And isn't that a civil union?
Yeah, civil union.
Todd?
Yeah, you're
Civil unit. Yeah, that's right. We were trying to think of that
civil
earlier.
union. Yeah, we're trying to think of a union. But because of our egos, they had to keep on this fight. They had to keep on the fight and go, no, we should be able to get married. Listen, that is a religious term for these people over here, okay? And if they want to hold on to it, fuck it, just let them hold on to it. Who cares?
Right.
Call what you're doing something else, okay? It can have the exact same definition, but with a different word. And you can have all the same legal things as somebody who's married. So put your egos aside and get what you want, which is to be held up
And
the
couldn't,
same.
couldn't the exact same thing be said for these? You want to have this title for your marriage? Put your egos aside and let these people have the exact same thing. Who cares? It doesn't have to diminish you. Don't give them a whole
You
new
could.
title, a
You
whole
could.
new
I
thing.
understand.
But what
Just all
existed
call them
first?
The same thing.
But what existed first?
Homosexuality.
I'm not talking sexually. I'm saying the thing that
Yeah,
existed.
shut your mouth, Junior.
The thing
You
that
heard him.
I'll put my finger up
Oh,
again.
God. No, Daddy.
The thing that existed first legally was marriage. Okay, which outlined all these laws, and I'm blanking on the other thing that marriage gives you.
Well, you get tax rights, and then you get the right to people's property.
It's illegal. You get
legal
federal
bindings.
rights.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
All
you get
the-
federal
you-
benefits.
Right. Okay. But that was in place first, and it was called that first. So these people that are trying to defend that, okay, that's the way it was. That's the first thing that came about. So this other thing that people want came second. Not that they're second class, not that they should be held any less, but they are coming up second.
Right.
Right? And so they want the same legality, they want the same rights. Fine. Let's put our egos aside, because clearly group number one is not going to move. They're not budget on this. And it's just going to create conflict and diversity and all this crap. So let's
Adversity.
Hmm?
It's adversity.
What did I say?
You said diversity.
I said diversity?
Diversity.
Sorry,
All right.
go on.
Whatever.
Don't put your finger up.
I swear to God,
Oh God.
there's a finger. But but do you think that the ego gets in the way of that?
Absolutely.
Sure. I would agree.
But I
You-
think if you did that argument just like you did, that saying that marriage is actually a religious idea, not necessarily a God-given right or a thing that you have to do. If you said, "Oh, it's just a Christian thing," I honestly do not believe that gays and lesbians would want to do it then. That they wouldn't like strive so hard to get this marriage thing because they'd be like, "Oh, that's not an idea that's a government idea or a United States idea. It's a Christian idea." If you give it like that,
I know
don't think
there's
they
a lot
would
of gays
accept
and
it.
lesbians who are Christian, and we're not saying that they're not. There's not.
But that's
gays
saying
and
that,
lesbians who
yeah,
are
that's
Christian.
just saying that if right now people believe that if in order to be your relationship to considered real or that matters, you have to be married. That's an idea that people live behind the United States. That it has a legal binding.
Right.
But if you think about it as a religious idea that you get married for religious purposes, then it's a completely different spin on the idea that people I don't think they'd want to get it so hard then.
The more we talk about it, the more I think about there's probably two groups of people. I think it started out with the group of gays and lesbians saying we feel like second-class citizens and we don't have those same rights.
Right.
Okay? And then as this argument and this battle spanned, the longer it went on, a second group was formed that was a little bit more jaded and said, "You know what? Fuck you. We're gay and lesbian and we're Christians and I want to be married under my Christian faith."
Sure.
And the Bible doesn't say anything against Christianity or against gay, by the way. It just says like vague references to homosexuality that you
But
can't
that's
treat
New
a man
Testament.
like a woman.
Is that New Testament or Old Testament?
That's Old Testament, but the idea is actually they took it out of context. The actual idea in the Bible is you can't treat a man like a woman, and in those days in that time period,
So
women
does that
had,
mean I don't do the dishes?
well, no, but you got to think of it in that time period, in the biblical time period in which back then women weren't allowed to own property.
Very strict.
Yeah, we're basically slaves. I mean, and the idea that that their fathers generally married them off to someone. They didn't go like, "Oh, let's get married." They
Right.
were married off to people. So that really references to a time in which they said you can't treat a man like a woman or have a man like a woman. They were talking about you can't have a man as a sexual slave like women were at the time. They weren't saying two men can't love each other. It's never said that in the Bible.
Right. Here's the crazy thing. I really love your definition right there. I really love what you just said. But here's the thing that everyone is going to fail at. Everyone. When people say that's not what they meant back then. That's not what they meant. None of us were alive back then. None of us. And everything back then was written in a dead language, and it's been deciphered and translated, and there's things that get lost in translation. And we have no idea. We can't possibly sit here today and think with our current brain, our current way of thinking, our current society influence, and think that we have any type of understanding of what happened, what was going on back then. We cannot relate at all to what was going on back then.
Well, imagine someone reading a book now that's been translated 100 times about today's society. That's been translated 100 times into different languages that some people only barely understand, and that certain groups could gain by misinterpreting that said book, and then give it to people who lived 1,000 years behind or 1,000 years ahead of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
They would have as vague and weird idea of how we live now than we have of them living back in the past in the biblical times.
Yeah, I agree.
But see, that's where religion is so tough, is because they're following an ideal system that was created past
Mhm.
back when they had morals that we would call unmoral now, and it's an idea that has been translated and changed so much, and that's what they base that's like their law.
Right.
The Bible
Right.
is more strong than law to a lot of Christians. It's the
Well,
word
hey,
of God.
In a closure kind of way, are we saying goodbye to Junior at this point
Yeah, I think this is going to be our last podcast with him before he leaves
for the Air Force?
for the Air Force. So, hey,
Not permanent, but
yeah, not permanent.
He'll
We'll
be
see
back.
him again, yeah.
He'll be back. Jeez,
But-
Louise.
But between now and then,
We have a good
28 weeks.
28 weeks,
7
probably
months.
a year till
isn't
he's
that a movie?
back
It's
to.
not.
28
28
days later.
days.
Oh, 28 days.
That's the
Yeah.
better one.
Yeah, so we have a good chunk of time until he's back.
All right.
So,
So, in summation of this last subject, I think everybody would agree when I say this. We believe that everyone should be treated fairly, that everybody should have the same rights, that nobody should be held above anybody else, that gays and lesbians should have the same rights and responsibilities as people who are straight. So I'm glad that DOMA failed, that we don't have it anymore.
Yeah, me too.
I'm happy for that. And
I'm mad it existed in the first place.
Yeah, that's true.
that's true.
That's true.
But you know what? People make judgment calls, and the more you talk about things,
Popular opinion happens.
the more you
Society grabs the
regurgitate
wave.
an item, you might change your opinions, you might become enlightened, and hopefully that is what this podcast does a little bit. We're not going to enlighten you totally. So we're going to continue on the conversation.
One step forward,
We're
two
gonna
steps back.
Yeah, we're going to hopefully...
One step forward, two steps back.
Wait, that's digression. That's
Sorry.
digression.
Yeah,
I'm
thanks a lot.
teasing. I'm teasing.
So
Sorry.
we're really hoping that this sparks conversation at the water cooler. We want you guys to regurgitate all this stuff. And if you don't agree with us, that's okay. If you agree, that's awesome.
So
Do us a
And if you
favor.
like porn, watch it.
please
Yeah,
come
if you
to.
like porn, watch it. Use
So
lube.
please follow us on Twitter with the Primal Scream at Matt and Todd. Also, theprimalscream.org is our website. You can download our podcast from there. Please comment. Please let us know what you're thinking. We will be happy to regurgitate whatever you say. Just like
Yeah, we love constructive
Matt
criticism.
said, we'll take all of it. We won't judge you and give you a hard time, but we'll take it and we'll give our opinions about it. Good and bad and equal. We'll be happy to follow up with what you have to say. So
Yeah.
we really appreciate you following us, listening to the podcast, watching the website, Twitter, Facebook. It's all the same
Yeah,
to
just
us.
take it all in.
Thanks so much for listening to us today.
Yeah,
I really
thanks a
appreciate
lot,
it.
Junior, for being here.
Thanks, buddy.
No
Good
problem.
luck to you, buddy.
Thanks.
And thanks a lot. We'll see you all again next time.
Adios.
Bye.